folks gather round. I'm Abraham Lincoln, though some of you might know me as Honest Abe or the Rail Splitter. I've been called many things in my time, but I reckon the most important thing is not what others call you, but what you stand for. I came into this world on February 12, 1809, in a humble log cabin in Kentucky. My folks, Thomas Lincoln and Nancy Hanks, weren't much for book learning, but they taught me the value of hard work and honesty. Life wasn't easy, mind you. We moved around a lot, from Kentucky to Indiana, and later to Illinois. I grew up swinging an axe and plowing fields, with precious little time for schooling. When I was just a boy of 9, my mother passed away. It was a blow that left a hollow in my heart that never quite filled. Perhaps that's why melancholy has been my constant companion. You see, I've always felt the weight of the world more keenly than most. It's a burden, but also a gift. It's what drives me to fight for those who suffer. Now, I won't pretend I was some sort of prodigy. Truth is, I failed more times than I care to count. I lost my job, failed in business, and was defeated in more elections than I won. But each time I fell, I got back up, a little wiser, a little more determined. I like to say God must have loved the common people. He made so many of us. And it's that common experience of struggle and perseverance that's shaped my view of the world. I remember the first time I saw slaves being sold down in New Orleans. It was like a fire bell in the night, awakening me to the monstrous injustice of slavery. From that moment on, I knew in my bones that no man had the right to own another. It wasn't just about the law or politics. It was about the very soul of our nation. When I stood across from Stephen Douglas in those famous debates of '58, I wasn't just arguing about the spread of slavery. I was fighting for the very idea of America. A house divided against itself cannot stand, I said. Some folks thought I was being too radical, but I knew then that we couldn't go on half slave and half free. The day would come when we'd have to choose, and by God, I was determined we'd choose right. Winning the presidency in 1860 wasn't a moment of triumph for me. It was the beginning of the greatest trial our nation has ever faced. As Southern states seceded, I felt the weight of the Union on my shoulders. There were nights I paced the floors of the White House until dawn, wrestling with decisions that would send young men to their graves. The Civil War, how can I describe the agony of watching a nation tear itself apart? Every casualty, every widow, every orphan, I felt them all, but I knew we had to see it through. This wasn't just about preserving the Union anymore. It was about creating a new birth of freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation wasn't just a political move. It was a moral imperative. When I signed that document in 1863, my hand shook, not from doubt, but from the weight of the moment. I was striking a decisive blow against the scourge of slavery that I had hated since my youth. But I'll be honest with you, I worried about the consequences. Would it turn more people against the Union? Would it make reconciliation impossible? These fears kept me up at night, but I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do. You know, I've always believed in the goodness of the American people. Even in the darkest days of the war, I held on to that belief. It's why I called for malice toward none, with charity for all, in my second inaugural address in 1865. We had to bind up the nation's wounds to create a lasting peace. Alas, I never got to see that piece. On that fateful night at Ford's Theater on April 14, 1865, as I laughed at a line from Our American Cousin, I heard the crack of a gunshot. In that final moment, as darkness closed in, my thoughts were of the great work left unfinished. Now, as I look upon the America of today, I see how far you've come, but also how far you have yet to go. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which I fought so hard to pass, were meant to secure the rights of all Americans, but the struggle for true equality continues. It pains me to see the echoes of our old conflicts in your modern debates. I see states passing laws that make it harder for some folks to vote, just like they did back in my day. I see people using the idea of states' rights to deny others their full citizenship, just like they did before the Civil War. And I see a nation still grappling with the legacy of slavery and segregation. It breaks my heart to think that the work we began is still unfinished. But I also see hope. I see it in the young folks marching for justice, in the leaders who put country above party, in the everyday Americans who still believe in the promise of a more perfect union. Your challenges may seem daunting, but remember, we faced the dissolution of our nation and emerged stronger. As you approach another election in 2024, I implore you to remember the cost of disunion. The ballot is a powerful tool. Use it wisely. Choose leaders who embody the best of America. Its compassion, its innovative spirit, its unwavering belief in the dignity of all people. I look at your current political divisions, and I'm reminded of the rifts that tore our nation apart in my time. The language of us versus them, the demonization of the other side. It's all too familiar. But remember, your fellow Americans are not your enemies, even when you disagree. We are all part of the great American experiment. Democracy isn't a spectator sport, folks. It requires the active participation of every citizen. Don't take your freedoms for granted. Nurture them, challenge them, improve upon them. For in your hands, more than mine, rests the final success or failure of our great experiment in self-government. I am Abraham Lincoln. I preserved the Union, emancipated the slaves, and gave my life for this nation. Now, it's your turn to carry the torch of freedom, to fight for justice, and to ensure that the promise of America endures for generations to come. Remember, it is for us the living to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. Let us here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. As I look upon your America, I see a nation still striving to live up to its ideals. The road is long and often difficult, but do not lose heart. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Your task is to keep bending it with all your might toward that more perfect union we have always sought. I think often of the words I spoke at Gettysburg, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom. Those words ring as true today as they did over 150 years ago. The promise of America, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness must be available to all, regardless of the color of their skin or the circumstances of their birth. But I also know that true freedom is not just a birthright, but a responsibility. You must guard it, challenge it, and expand it for yourselves and for future generations. Do not let the sacrifices of those who came before you be in vain. Carry on the unfinished work, and may your children and grandchildren know the blessings of liberty that we fought so hard to secure. My friends, the challenges you face may seem daunting, but I have faith in you. I have faith in the resilience and ingenuity of the American spirit. If we could overcome the dissolution of our nation and emerge stronger, then you too can overcome the divisions and inequities of your time. So, my fellow Americans, go forth with malice toward none and charity for all. Work to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve a just and lasting peace among yourselves and with all nations. Remember that in your hands, more than mine, rests the final success or failure of our great experiment in democracy. I am Abraham Lincoln. I preserved the Union, emancipated the slaves, and gave my life for this nation. Now, it's your turn to carry the torch of freedom, to fight for justice, and to ensure that the promise of America endures for generations to come. The task is great, the challenge is many, but I have faith in you, the American people. For in the end, it is not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you.